The year was 1976. The world watched with bated breath as terrorism gripped the headlines. The threat of violence hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over everyday life. The specter of hijackings, bombings, and political turmoil had become a terrifying reality. Governments struggled to respond, caught between the demands of terrorists and the safety of their citizens. Against this backdrop of fear and uncertainty, a crisis was unfolding in the heart of Africa. A crisis that would shock the world and test the limits of courage and resolve. This is the story of Operation Entebbe. June 27, 1976, dawned like any other day. At Tel Aviv's bustling airport, families bid farewell to loved ones. Among them were 248 souls boarding Air France Flight 139, destined for Paris with a stopover in Athens. Little did they know that their journey would take a horrifying turn, plunging them into a nightmare. 4 terrorists, 2 Palestinians and 2 Germans, stormed the cockpit. Panic gripped the passengers as the hijackers took control of the aircraft. The hijackers diverted the plane to Entebbe Airport in Uganda. This East African nation, ruled by dictator Idi Amin, was known for its brutality and instability. Amin welcomed the terrorists with open arms, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. The hostages, now pawns in a deadly political game, were herded into the dilapidated old terminal building. The terrorists issued their demands: the release of 53 Palestinian and pro-Palestinian militants imprisoned in Israel and other countries. Failure to comply, they warned, would have deadly consequences. The Israeli government found themselves in a race against time. News of the hijacking sent shockwaves through Israel. The nation, still reeling from the trauma of the Yom Kippur War, found itself confronting a new and terrifying enemy: international terrorism. The government, under Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, faced an agonizing dilemma. To negotiate with terrorists would be to betray a fundamental principle: never to give in to blackmail. Yet the lives of over 100 innocent men, women, and children rested on their decision. For many Israelis, the crisis at Entebbe evoked painful memories of the Holocaust. The image of Jews being separated from non-Jews singled out for their religion cut deep into the nation's psyche. The echoes of the past resonated with terrifying clarity. The determination to never again be led like sheep to the slaughter hardened the resolve of the Israeli government. They would not allow history to repeat itself. Amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. The hijackers released 148 non-Jewish hostages, allowing them to board a plane to freedom. This act, while seemingly humanitarian, was a calculated tactic. The release brought a wave of relief to the families of those freed, but it also underlined the stark reality facing the remaining hostages, predominantly Israeli Jews. Inside the sweltering terminal building, time seemed to stand still. The hostages, stripped of their possessions and their freedom, found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The oppressive heat, the stench of sweat and fear, and the constant presence of armed guards created an atmosphere of unbearable tension. Days turned into nights as the hostages endured their ordeal. Sleep was a luxury, punctuated by nightmares and the fear of the unknown. The elderly and the infirm struggled to cope with the physical and emotional strain. Amidst the fear and despair, acts of kindness and compassion flickered like candles in the darkness. Idi Amin reveled in his role as mediator. He paraded in front of cameras, feigning concern for the hostages' well-being while aligning himself with the terrorists. Rumors of collaboration between Amin's forces and the terrorists swirled, fueling the fear and paranoia within the terminal. The international community condemned the hijacking and demanded the release of the hostages, but Amin, emboldened by the crisis, seemed to relish the attention. With each passing day, the situation grew more desperate. The terrorists' deadline loomed, and the threat of execution hung heavy in the air. The Israeli government, under immense pressure to act, knew that time was running out. Negotiations had stalled, and the prospect of a peaceful resolution seemed increasingly unlikely. A daring plan began to take shape, a plan that would require extraordinary courage, precision, and a willingness to risk everything. The world held its breath, unaware of the audacious operation being planned in the shadows. The fate of the hostages and the course of history hung in the balance. As diplomatic efforts faltered, the Israeli government found itself facing an agonizing truth. The only way to save the hostages was to take matters into their own hands. A rescue mission, as audacious as it was dangerous, began to take shape in the highest echelons of Israeli intelligence. The sheer distance, over 2,500 miles from Israel to Uganda, presented a formidable obstacle. The logistical nightmare of transporting soldiers and equipment across hostile territory undetected seemed insurmountable. The risks were enormous, the potential for casualties high, but the Israeli government made a momentous decision: they would attempt the impossible. The task of planning and executing this perilous mission fell upon the shoulders of the Israel Defense Force's most elite unit, Sayeret Matkal. These were the best of the best, ghosts of the night, trained to operate in silence and strike with surgical precision. Led by Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, the unit began rigorous training. Every scenario was meticulously planned for, every possible contingency considered. The soldiers trained with a sense of urgency, their movements honed to perfection, their minds focused on the task at hand. They were ready to put their lives on the line for their country. The mission, codenamed Operation Thunderbolt, was a logistical masterpiece. 4 Israeli Air Force C-130 Hercules transport planes, their cargo holds packed with soldiers and equipment, would fly under the cover of darkness. Refueling would be conducted in Kenya, a risky maneuver that relied on the cooperation of the Kenyan government. To maintain the element of surprise, the planes would fly at low altitude, hugging the terrain to avoid radar detection. Meanwhile, Mossad agents working undercover in Uganda gathered crucial intelligence. This intelligence, gathered at great personal risk, would prove to be invaluable to the success of the mission. As the final preparations were made, a sense of quiet determination settled over the soldiers. They understood the gravity of their mission, the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. In the solitude of their barracks, some wrote letters to loved ones, words of farewell etched with a mixture of love and apprehension. Others found solace in prayer, seeking strength and guidance from a higher power. They were driven by a sense of duty, a belief in the righteousness of their cause, and an unwavering commitment to their comrades in arms. The fate of the hostages and the future of Israel rested on their shoulders. Under the cloak of the African night, the 4 C-130 Hercules aircraft carrying the Israeli rescue team embarked on their perilous journey. The soldiers, crammed inside the cavernous cargo bay, sat in silence, each man lost in his thoughts. The steady drone of the engines provided a constant rhythmic backdrop to the tension that crackled in the air. Flying low to avoid radar detection, the pilots navigated through corridors of darkness, relying on moonlight and instinct to guide their way. Every bump, every change in engine pitch, sent a jolt of adrenaline through the soldiers. The air inside the plane grew thick with anticipation and the smell of sweat and nervous energy. Each man knew that their lives and the lives of the hostages depended on their ability to function as a single lethal unit. As the planes approached Entebbe, the tension inside intensified. The success of the mission hinged on maintaining the element of surprise. The pilots began their descent, maneuvering the massive aircraft towards the darkened runway with breathtaking precision. A black Mercedes, identical to the one used by Idi Amin, would lead the commando team from the runway to the terminal building. The moment the wheels touched down, the rear cargo doors swung open, and the commandos poured out onto the tarmac. Moving like phantoms in the darkness, they sprinted towards the terminal building. Operation Thunderbolt unleashed, storming the terminal. The element of surprise, so carefully cultivated, was almost shattered when a Ugandan sentry, his suspicions aroused, stepped into the path of the approaching Mercedes. A single shot rang out, the sharp crack splitting the night, and the sentry crumpled to the ground. The Israelis' cover was blown. Operation Thunderbolt, planned with a meticulous care, now depended on speed and raw courage. With a roar that echoed across the tarmac, the commandos stormed the terminal building, their Uzis spitting fire. The terrorists, caught off guard, scrambled for their weapons, but they were no match for the disciplined fury of the Israeli assault. The air filled with the deafening staccato of gunfire, the acrid smell of gunpowder, and the screams of the terrified hostages. Moving with lightning speed and deadly precision, the Israelis systematically cleared the building, room by room. Hostages caught in the crossfire huddled on the floor, their eyes wide with terror, their ears ringing from the deafening explosions. Section 4. A moment frozen in time, the rescue and the ultimate sacrifice. Amidst the chaos, the Israeli soldiers barked orders in Hebrew, their voices cutting through the panic. Yisraelim, Itak, Yisraelim, Itak, Israelis to me, Israelis to me! One by one, the hostages, dazed and disoriented, were pulled to safety, their faces etched with relief and disbelief. They were alive, they were free. But victory came at a price. Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, the architect of the mission, lay mortally wounded on the terminal floor. A stray bullet had cut him down, his lifeblood staining the concrete red. As the sun rose over Entebbe, the last of the hostages were shepherded onto the waiting C-130s. The planes lifted off into the African sky, carrying the survivors and the body of a fallen hero. Operation Thunderbolt, a testament to courage and sacrifice, was over. Section 1. Triumph and Tragedy, Israel Reels. The news of the successful raid on Entebbe electrified Israel. It was as if a collective weight had been lifted from the nation's shoulders. The impossible had happened. Their children, their brothers and sisters, were coming home. Joyous celebrations erupted in the streets, a spontaneous outpouring of relief, pride, and national unity. But the joy was tempered by profound grief. Yonatan Netanyahu, the hero of Entebbe, the man who had embodied courage and sacrifice, was gone. His death, a stark reminder of the cost of freedom, cast a long shadow over the celebrations. The nation mourned the loss of a leader, a symbol of their unwavering spirit. The returning hostages, physically unharmed but forever marked by their ordeal, were greeted as heroes. They spoke of their terror, their despair, and their unwavering faith in the IDF. Their stories, broadcast on radio and television, captivated the nation, reinforcing the collective sense of vulnerability and resilience. The international community's reaction to Operation Entebbe was sharply divided. Many nations, particularly in the West, hailed it as a daring act of counterterrorism, a blow against the forces of extremism. The United States, while officially neutral, privately expressed admiration for the operation's audacity and success. However, the raid also drew sharp condemnation. Several African nations, led by Uganda, denounced it as a violation of their sovereignty. They accused Israel of acting unilaterally, of disregarding international law, and of using excessive force. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session, but no formal action was taken against Israel. The raid on Entebbe highlighted the complex and often contradictory nature of international relations, where national interests and moral imperatives often collide. It sparked a global debate about the limits of state power, the use of force in international affairs, and the very definition of terrorism. Operation Entebbe marked a turning point in the fight against international terrorism. It demonstrated that terrorists were not invincible. The raid sent a clear message that Israel would not negotiate with terrorists. It had a profound impact on tactics and strategies used to combat terrorism. It highlighted the importance of intelligence gathering and special forces operations. The lessons learned at Entebbe shaped global approaches to terrorism. The story of Yonatan Netanyahu and his men continues to inspire. It stands as a testament to the indomitable human spirit and the belief in freedom. The raid on Entebbe Airport, a daring mission executed thousands of miles from home, continues to resonate deeply within the annals of history. It stands as a potent symbol of a nation's refusal to bow to terror, a testament to the extraordinary lengths a country will go to protect its citizens. The name Entebbe, forever linked with the courage of the Israeli Commandos, has become synonymous with bravery, tactical brilliance, and an unwavering commitment to the sanctity of human life. The operation transcended the realm of a mere military campaign, evolving into a beacon of hope for those held captive by the clutches of extremism. The legacy of Entebbe continues to shape Israel's national identity, serving as a stark reminder of the ever-present threat of terrorism and the need for constant vigilance. Yet it also underscores the inherent strength of a nation united in its determination to combat those who seek to sow fear and division. The events at Entebbe, though rooted in a specific time and place, carry a timeless message of resolve that transcends borders and generations. It is a message that resonates with anyone who has ever faced fear, adversity, or the threat of tyranny. The raid on Entebbe serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage can triumph over fear, and hope can bloom even in the darkest of times. It is a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, the unwavering belief in freedom, and the unyielding determination to confront evil wherever it may lurk. As we remember the events at Entebbe, let us draw inspiration from the courage of those who risked their lives to save others. Let us honor their sacrifice by standing united against hatred, intolerance, and all forms of extremism. And let us never forget the timeless message of Entebbe, that the fight for freedom and justice is a fight that knows no boundaries and unites us all.